Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. В эфире программа Ushanka Show. Today I would like to return to the topic of the Soviet vacation. I already covered that that subject quite extensively in my Soviet vacation videos, which is number 95, 97, 98, 99, and 100. And especially my video number 98, I talked in depth there about Soviet people going overseas to visit other countries. Recently I stumbled upon some diary that lady kept while traveling on the cruise liner from Leningrad all around the Northern Europe. And because she kept the diary, we got some witness account of that type of trip. So they traveled from Leningrad to Stockholm, to Oslo, Norway, to Dublin, to London, and back to Leningrad. So quite impressive trip. And today we're gonna look in the beginning of that diary. So that was a pretty extensive cruise. It lasted almost 4 weeks, from October 20th till November 13th. Of 1978. So I was 7-year-old, just started school, and this lady where he was married had a kid. So that's the older generation of the Soviet people. The author of this diary is Nelly Rykova, unfortunately passed away in 1989, and as I said, she kept the diary for her daughter that remained at home while she traveled. Her mom traveled with her dad through the Europe, and the diary for 42 years was in the family archives, and now her grandson got hang of it, and he published some of the most interesting parts of the diary and showed some photos. So that cruise allowed Soviet citizens to see Denmark, Sweden, France, Finland, Norway, Great Britain, and Ireland. Nelly and her husband Alexander used to live in Ukraine, Soviet Socialist Republic, in a city called Voroshilovgrad. Now, if you pull Google Maps or any modern maps, you won't find Voroshilovgrad on the maps. It was renamed back to original pre-revolution name Lugansk. But for a long time it was Voroshilovgrad, so the city of Comrade Voroshilov. Maybe he was born there, but that was the Soviet name of that city, Voroshilovgrad. Now it's again Lugansk. And speaking of renaming cities and towns and villages, the Soviets were famous for changing the names, and I'm talking even like historical names of the cities. It's like they were trying to wipe out the old history. I'm shocked personally that, for example, Nizhny Novgorod, this is so Russian history related city, related name, that Nizhny Novgorod was renamed to Gorky after a famous Soviet writer. And of course, St. Petersburg had quite a trip. It changed from St. Petersburg to Petrograd, so when the First World War started with Germany, it wasn't cool anymore to use Burg, which is a German word, so Peterburg turned into Petrograd, the Grad of Peter. And of course, after Revolution, it was renamed again into Leningrad. So we got St. Petersburg, Petrograd, then Leningrad, then back to St. Petersburg. I am not sure how many people would recognize the famous town if I call Tsaritsyn, but everyone knows Stalingrad. So Stalingrad before 1925 was Tsaritsyn, which you can translate the one that belongs to the Tsarina. Then of course it was Stalingrad for a while, and now it's Volgograd. And I think Stalin participated in a battle for Tsaritsyn, and that's one of the reasons why he later put his name on it. And then of course another German sounding name in a German town, Königsberg, got renamed into Kaliningrad. Even in the 80s, we had a short wave of renaming cities. Actually, some people got very upset, like locals, because when Brezhnev passed away, a small town got renamed Brezhnev. I think it was Nabережные Челны, and then it was renamed back to Nabережные Челны after a while. When Comrade Andropov passed away in 1984, the town of Rybinsk got renamed into Andropov. In 1985, when Comrade Chernenko followed Comrade Andropov, which followed Comrade Brezhnev, they renamed a town in Siberia Sharypova into Chernenko. But that name lasted only for 3 years. In 1988, it was once again Sharypova. So out of all Soviet leaders, only 2 poor fellows that didn't get some town or city named after them was Comrade Khrushchev and Comrade Gorbachev. And the common thing about those, there's only 2 guys that didn't pass away while being a captain of the Soviet ship. I apologize for this little detour. I just thought it was kind of interesting to mention the situation with constant renaming of cities and towns back in the Soviet days. And now we return back to the Nelly's trip diary. And I think in this video today we're just gonna cover her first entry because we need to break it down and talk about it. In this simple entry, I just found so many interesting, cute details, and I think it would be really important to slow down and discuss in detail. So her first entry in the diary, it's actually kind of summarizes the pre-story to the actual trip, and she writes, "Husband informed that he is going to this trip, and I and my daughter, or our daughter, in the summer can go for a week to the Black Sea and do something else you want." So we can learn a lot just from one single line. So her husband informs her that he got this putyovka. Remember, if you watch my videos, you can't just go to the travel agency and say, "Hey, I would like to go for this trip." It actually was almost dispersed through the system. So at his place of work, it was his opportunity to obtain this putyovka, this cruise trip into the Northern Europe. So he informed his wife that he's going by himself. And as the kind of compensation, he told her that, "Hey, you can take our daughter to the Black Sea for a week." Once again, the most desirable destination for Soviet people is to spend a week or 2 at the Black Sea and do anything else you want. So here we go, you already kind of tell there's a problem in the family. Sounds to me like the husband is quite a selfish guy because he's just "Hey, I got this trip, I'm going myself and you guys can do something else." And she continues her diary. "Me, of course, become very angry and started collecting money, saving, and cut on everything. Expenses wise. So it sounds to me like the excuse was, "Hey, it's very expensive. I don't have enough money to pay for both of us to go on this cool trip. So I just gonna go myself and you guys go to Black Sea, which is way cheaper." So sounds like wife wasn't having any of it. And she actually saying that she started refusing on even basics. So she was saving every kopeck. And she continues, "Meanwhile, so while she's saving money and, saving on everything, meanwhile, he continued visiting restaurants and whores." Well, she's using Russian word "blyad." And I had to ask my wife, my American wife, that I couldn't make sure, I want to make sure I can translate correctly, because "blyad" can be translated as a whore or as a slut. And what I kind of learned that sluts are the ones that sleep around. They don't mind to sleep with her best friend boyfriend, and whores usually do it for some kind of reward, money, or whatever. So basically what I learned in this little English lesson, that every whore is a slut, but not every slut is a whore. But anyway, so sounded like he was just continuing spending money in restaurants and on sluts. So here there's another part of the Soviet culture. Like quite often I had a question, people ask me like, how often do you guys go to restaurants to eat out and stuff like that? And it's a huge difference between Soviet restaurant and like American restaurants. Here people go to eat, there people go to party. So food is nice, but you don't eat a lot, you mostly drink. So this is like, if you have a lot of money, then this is what you go. You go to the restaurant, and maybe there'll be some girls hanging out there that like to have a quality time, have some drinks and have some fun. So this is what she's upset, that her husband was still blowing money on the restaurants and whores. So, and restaurants were pretty expensive to go to and eat there. And back to diary. So she just continues. Generally, it's interesting, another Soviet expression, крутилась, как могла. So I literally translate like you were spinning around as much as you could. So she was attempting to make any additional income any way possible. So she was spinning as I could. I was very tired and I was banging away pretty much, like working hard and doing anything possible to earn extra money all summer. So she didn't take vacation that summer, as husband suggested, like, hey, I'll go on a trip and you just stay here and have a good time. And then she continues, by the end, I didn't want to go anywhere. I actually didn't want to live anymore. So she like really broke her, like a straw broke camel's back. So all that hard effort to gather money, save money, earn money for this trip, she just was so tired. But she said, I had too many hopes placed on this trip. And there she continues. As a result, I paid the money on the 5th. I borrowed 600 rubles from Lyosha, so some friend of hers or relative, and also borrowed another 300 rubles in a different spot. I'll pay back. It's not that bad. So there's a situation. So husband definitely refused to pay anything for her trip. So he's like, okay, if you get this money, then go ahead. So she doesn't specify how much she managed to earn, but she still had to borrow 900 rubles from some other people. So we're talking, 900 rubles, and she maybe had 500-600 rubles. So this is the annual income for the average Soviet worker. So this trip, if you convert to the average American worker, we're talking maybe you have to pay $30,000 for 2-week cruise in Northern Europe. So this is, besides there's so many people want to go that it's hard to get that putyovka, and the cost of putyovka close to your annual income. But she had so many hopes for this trip, so she managed to earn some and then borrow another 900 rubles to go for this trip. So the actual trip started on October 17 when they left by train from Varshilovgrad to Moscow. So it looks like there was no direct train from Varshilovgrad, Ukraine to Leningrad. So they had to take train to Moscow first and then change the trains and go to Leningrad. So she just writes down that she collected all her belongings. She borrowed from Luba, so that's a female friend, traveling case and a bag. So once again, there's a Soviet family, she managed to scrape enough money for this trip, but then she borrows the case. So she didn't have her own traveling case, or maybe she never needed one. And at 2 p.m., all the group got together, so around 40 people. So there was a whole group was 40 people from Varshilovgrad. So I guess they had a batch of these putyovkas for that city. And these 40 lucky people got together. And then instant comment, I guess they hop on the bus because it says, we drove around our town so we don't miss it for a little bit, so we don't have dreams about it. And then we arrived to the train station, Vokzal. So this is already kind of interesting. Like, okay, we lived our life in this city, so let's take a drive by so we don't miss it much and it doesn't come back to us in our dreams. Then try that on train. They met quite interesting couple in their coupe. If you watch my videos about Soviet trains, about traveling by train, the cheapest way was Platskart, which was like wide open, or coupe was the individual kind of rooms with 4 spots, so there were 4 people in each room, and they had that sliding door, so coupe. So they met this couple. Otherwise, they just enjoyed the trip. We're watching the nature out of the window, and tea with sugar. It was a beautiful morning. So it's November already, so it said everything was covered by frost, and beautiful scene, villages, churches, and so on. Okay, so I hope you like this story, and if you guys are interested, please post in your comments. I can continue and we can look more about this lady's impressions of the West and how the trip went. I mean, all they had was $63 for 2 of them to spend. That's the only amount of money was allowed. And of course, they had a guide and KGB supervisor. So all matches, like that story that I told you earlier, this is the actual witness account, and it just matches 100%. All right, well, we're gonna continue with the story in my next video, then couple of videos. So we'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye. Hey, by the way, cool merch for cool comrades is available at the Ushanka store at teespring.com. And if you love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet Union.